The chapter Introduction, we discuss depression, anxiety, and stress experienced by college students during their study in Malaysia. The chapter will start by discussing the background of the study. In order to introduce the history of the main title, then the content will follow the problem statement, research question, research objectives as a purpose to state a clear statement of the study. The content continue with the scope of the study, the significance of the study, the definition of the term, and close with a summary of the chapter. Background of the study. College students are increasingly experiencing mental health issues. According to relevant research, roughly half university students had moderate level of stress related to mental health concerns, such as anxiety and depression. Almost half of college students suffer from depression, anxiety, or stress. Similarly, more than 30% of college students suffer from depression, and this ratio has risen over the last decade. The depression, anxiety, stress scale have been widely recognized as a reliable research instrument in the field for assessment student mental state. Depression, anxiety, and stress have significant negative impact on individual and society and can result in negative outcomes such as academic workload, personal factor, and substance abuse. In addition to anxiety, healthcare provision problem. As a result, undergraduate students need to pay attention to physical well-being in order to improve their quality of their life. Problem statement. College students are more likely to experience stress, anxiety, and despair while studying due to substance abuse, personal factor, and increased academic workload. The finding in the paper also indicate that substance abuse such as smoking, drinking, and drug use has a negative impact on people's health. As a result, there is demonstration how much stress and despair they are feeling, as well as how various factors are interfering with their emotion. Research question and research objective. For the research question, the first is, what is the relationship between substance abuse with depression, anxiety, and stress? The second is, what is the relationship between personal factor with depression, anxiety, and stress? And the third is the relationship between academic workload with depression, anxiety, and stress. For the research objectives is, the first, to determine the relationship between substance abuse with depression, anxiety, and stress among college students. The second is to determine the relationship between personal factor with depression, anxiety, and stress. And the third, to determine the relationship between academic workload with depression, anxiety, and stress.
My name is Nurul Azli binti Mustafa and my information is H2182562. So I will start with scope of study. Our study focus on depression, anxiety, and stress among college students. We make the research because we found that every student has unique experience with mental health. As you can see, we found that college students report twice as much stress from academic performance and their personal life as a general adult population. This study also looked into another important psychological factor in their life and emotional health among Malaysian college students. Next is significance of study. Okay, we examine how students perceive and identify the factor that influence depression, anxiety, and stress among college students. Next is, the study is interest to several parties, particularly those concerned with the state of mental health. One of the reasons is we want to keep this feeling from students away so they can focus on their studies more without being concerned about their mental health. Third is, this research emphasizes the importance of student authorities in providing a good education and a good life. We make the research so students can learn more about the relationship between mental health from factor for the study. Lastly, this research will aid in the analysis of additional mental health issues that students face while attending college. So, because of this analysis, so it may help students in the future to overcoming this issue. Next is definition of terms. Okay, in this we will talk about our independent and dependent variable terms, names, and their meaning. Okay, firstly, substance abuse. Substance abuse is the use of illegal drugs, like drugs, cigarettes, alcohol for purpose other than those intended. This can cause significant problems or distress, such as you can failing from exam, study, and have problem with drugs, so it will affect your education. Next is personal factor. Personal factor is a personal characteristic that influence decision at various stages of life. It's also defined as experience, education, and personality. Third is academic workload. Okay, academic workload is as the major coursework and career path plans of a student and amount of work assigned to an individual, like assignment, tests, that or requirement that you need to finish on the given time period. And lastly is depression, anxiety, and stress. Okay, depression, as we know, is a feeling of sadness and hopeless, while anxiety can cause you feeling worry and dread, nervous, while stress make you feel under pressure and threatened. Even though these three is different type of mental health, but you can have these three at the same time. Lastly, for the chapter 1 is summary. Okay, in chapter 1 we discuss as researcher provide an overview to see how much the factor is affect the mental health. Okay, this study aim to identify the factor that influence mental health student during their study. And this chapter also introduce the research topic and provide context document analysis for the current study.
I'm Siti Nura Ashkim binti Muhammad, H21A to C89. I want to talk about introduction for chapter 2. In this chapter, we discuss about the independence variable and dependence variable, hypothesis, and framework we will use to further explain the relationship between the independence and dependence variable, and lastly, summary. Next, dependence variable. As you know, dependence variable is about depression, anxiety, and stress. So, as you can see, the slide show the definition and antecedents of depression, anxiety, and stress.
Substance abuse causes depression, anxiety, and stress among college students. It is caused by the pressure of students pushing them to be influenced by a negative environment, such as taking alcohol, drugs, and smoking. Smoking is the main cause in the population of mental illness. This finding is not surprising given that substance abuse can be used as a coping mechanism for people with mental health disorder. This suicide rate among students has increased due to student depression and high levels, causing them to commit to doing things that could endanger their life. Next is personal factors such as a family background, gender, ethnicity, divorced parents, and income are all associated with aspects of financial mental health and student debt. Young students and middle-aged people are more likely to mention people who are under financial stress. Gender factor in financial practice and the nature of good purchase on credit. Women were more likely to have a regret over a purchase and to write a check with insufficient funds. Next is a heavy academic workload can cause feeling of nervous and anxiety which cause stress if it persists in a longer period of time. This is because some students struggle with time management. It makes students feel lazy and make them want to avoid doing their homework. Students are more likely to experience stress due to academic factors, which can negatively impact their performance. This leads to their mental health problems, especially in depression, anxiety, and stress. Next is the relationship between substance abuse and the depression, anxiety, and stress. Smokers had a significantly highest level of depression, according to Liver, Strawberry, and Reganet 2020. The data in the article also show that substance abuse, such as smoking, alcohol, and drugs, had a negative impact on their health. The relationship between personal factor and the depression, anxiety, and stress. Individual financial stress. Hurad and Lashman 2020 mentioned financial stress as the most frequently mentioned issue in their article. Struggle to survive in college due to a lack of student and fund, and also the factor of depression, anxiety, and stress. Next is the relationship between academic workload and the depression, anxiety, and stress happen because the students are stressed and performing tasks like assessment under duress. It may also cause them to experience depression, anxiety, and stress during their college. They were unable to complete their assessment on time.
Hypothesis.
A hypothesis must be logical and testable while considering the most recent data and method. We have three hypotheses. Hypothesis 1. There is a relationship between substance abuse with depression, anxiety, and stress among college students. Hypothesis 2. There is a relationship between personal factor with depression, anxiety, and stress among college students. Hypothesis 3. There is a relationship between academic workload with depression, anxiety, and stress among college students. Next, for conceptual framework, as you can see the slide show, three independent variables have been proposed like substance abuse, personal factor, and increased academic workload. Meanwhile, the dependent variables among college students are depression, anxiety, and stress. This chapter 2 we close with summary. In this chapter, depression, anxiety, and stress are major concern from college students, especially when it's come to mental health.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Aidil bin Abdullah and my metric number is H21A2181. Today, I would like to give an explanation to all of you about our research. I would like to give an explanation about chapter 3, which is methodologies. So, for the introduction, the descriptive research design that used in this study is defined as a research method that describes the characteristic of the population being studied. The researcher used a quantitative approach to analyze the data gathered. According to Combo, in 2006, there are two types of research approaches, which is quantitative and qualitative approaches. Next, I would like to give you an explanation about research design. A research design is a study project plan that specifies how researchers will test their hypotheses or improve their study's objective. The researchers are attempting to determine what factors contribute to depression, anxiety, and stress in college students. This is done in learning to collect the evidence for a hypothesis. Next, for population and sample, in our research, a population is the entire group that the study want to research or treat. As a result, college students are the research target population. The goal of the study is to determine the relationship between substance abuse, personal factors, and increased academic workload with depression, anxiety, and stress. A survey or experiment sample size refers to the number of individual sample or observation used in it. For example, the cause of issues such as depression, anxiety, and stress that experienced by Malaysian college students during their studies. The need for a representative statistical sample is growing in empirical research. Next, for sampling technique, a researcher employs sampling as a technique to select a comparatively small numbers of representative thing or pupil, or as known as a subset from a predefined population. There are two kinds of sampling method, which is random and non-random. For non-random sampling method are non-probability sampling method, whereas random sampling method are probability sampling method. For instrument, more than 20% of university students in Malaysia had depression, according to a local studies. University students face a variety of challenges, including academic stress and career planning, which predisposes them to depression. Depression was found to be significantly related to female and male sex, exam, and alcohol problem. About 11.7% of students had clinically significant stress, which is comparable to previous studies using DASS. There was no difference in mean DASS score between female and male students. This finding is consistent with the other studies in which academic factors were identified as a primary stressor. The data analysis is the process of evaluating information by employing scientific and intelligent reasoning. This is the data analysis for our research. The descriptive statistic, reliability rest, and Pearson correlation were the primary analysis used in this research study. This chapter will present the analyzed research data as well as the statistical result as an analysis. The descriptive statistic for our research are used to provide a concise overview of sample and size. It is also a mathematical sum that looks at sample other properties such as mean, and standard deviation. Researchers can use descriptive statistics to predict what will happen and how it will relate to data changes. Next, for reliability test, the reliability of a study is a degree to which finding has remained consistent over time, as well as a correct representation of the entire population studied. The Depression Anxiety Stress Scale, or DASS, has been widely accepted as a reliable research instrument in this field for assessing student mental state. For Pearson correlation, the Pearson correlation test is used to assess the relationship between two variables. It is found that there was a link between the independent variables, which is substance abuse, personal factors, and academic outlook, and the dependent variable, or DV, as depression, anxiety, and stress that college students facing in their studies. A correlation on the measured numerical value can be either positive or negative. To summarize or summary in our research, the study will collect the data through a quantitative method that includes statistical analysis. The population is made up of Malaysian college students who have experienced depression, anxiety, and stress during their studies. So, the researcher will use the main widely used test to identify concerns and challenges related to the mental health of Malaysian students pursuing further education. The main widely used test, you can look it as example that we have put in our table. So that's all from me. Thank you.